Our guest, as you know, because you've read about him, is Alton Glass. And I'm going to read our formal introduction. Alton Glass is the CEO of Glass Rock Entertainment, a successful writer, producer, director in a number of genres from feature films to television. I'm going to skip over some of the titles because I hope we get a look at them. Candy Shop, Confidant, Crew, Los Angeles. Confidant starred Billy Zane, one of my favorite actors, by the way, and Richard Roundtree, another one of my favorite actors. He's also done a bunch of pilots, which we'll talk about. And he started out, if I'm correct, doing behind-the-scenes videos for music videos and documentary-style production. So we've got a lot to talk about. Alton is invited because he's one of the many, I guess, of his generation that's become very successful and kind of cracked the doors of Hollywood, if you will. You've done 6 feature films, Alton?
Yeah, I've done 6.
Hold that mic up.
I've done 6 feature films to date. Actually, a couple more, but I don't talk about them.
Why not? You're among friends. You can talk.
I've done 8 feature films. 2 came out on like Netflix, but I won't ever disclose the names of the movies.
Oh, okay.
But 5, I would say, are the ones that I'm most passionate about. And my very first one, of course. And I just recently finished a new one called Crew.
Crew?
Yeah, C-R-U, Crew. Yeah.
How did you, I got to start right off, how did you get to do 6 feature films? I mean, most people get out of school, they work for a number of years, they're lucky to get on a feature film, much less write, produce, or direct a feature film. You've done 6 to 8 of them.
Well, some of them I just wrote for other people. I've also just written films. I didn't have to direct them or produce them. As a matter of fact, I started writing pretty early when I was in high school, and I kind of knew what I wanted to do early on, so I was just writing in through high school, through college. And as I started to actually get hired to write, I went back and dusted those off when my career started to, take form. And then I was able to sell those and get them made.
Polish them up.
Yeah,
well, it must have been pretty good if you could sell them.
Yeah, I was just pretty surprised.
There's a lot of people who do your work for free, but they won't pay for it.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised that I was able to dust off a script I wrote when I was 17 and staying with my grandmother through the summertime. I said, okay, it's still pretty good. That's pretty good.
Did you, were you always making movies and writing scripts?
I actually wanted to be an actor first. I was I worked on a movie called Remember the Titans, and another one called Substitute 4. And when I got a chance to get behind the scenes, I just, I was really fascinated with the whole production aspect of filmmaking. And I said, that's actually what I really want to do. And then I saw a movie called The 5 Heartbeats that Robert Townsend made. And we still laugh about this today because I know him now as well. And he's been a tremendous, support throughout my career as well. And he inspired me to make independent films. He sort of set the tone for independent filmmaking. And I just, kept that going myself.
So you were enamored of the industry, really the creative juices that you had, I guess, right?
Yeah.
At an early age. Did you go to school for this?
I did. I was teasing Walter about this. He asked me what school I went to, and I said I have a PhD from UTE, that's University of Trial and Error. Because I've made numerous films, numerous projects, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've had a lot of great opportunities to do great on projects as well. So the question is yes and no. I went to college in Georgia State University, but we didn't have a traditional film program. It was more like broadcast journalism. So I eventually transferred and I moved to California, and I started going to Santa Monica College and, meeting people in filmmaking. And then I ended up going to Northridge, Cal State Northridge. But their program had my grades weren't high enough actually to get into their film program. So I said, man, this pretty sucks. And then by the time I left my school in Georgia, they had all updated film equipment. So I said, oh man,
your timing was perfect, wasn't it?
Just kind of out in the open. So I stumbled across a program called Hollywood Cinema Production Resources, and they were a union affiliated with the union, Local 600 for cinematography and camera, which was a tremendous blessing. They were in conjunction with West LA College, and they gave you hands-on. It's an 18-month program. You can apply it to your college credits as well. 18 months, you study everything from film to high def. And we learn how to break down film magazines, 35 millimeter, all the way to being digital utility techs on F900 cameras at the time, when George Lucas had just started using those Panasonic and Sony cameras.
Great
So I learned
training.
every aspect of lighting and camera first, as opposed to going to traditional film theories, school and stuff like that. And then I applied that aspect to getting on set and working in the camera department and just working my way up.
So after that, you did get a job in the industry.
Yeah, I got a job working as a camera assistant on a movie called Biker Boys. It was a motorcycle movie for DreamWorks.
Sounds like a high-class flick.
I was working as a janitor first. I had a janitorial business, and I moonlighted, and I met one of the producers. She said, hey, since you're already on set, cleaning the sets, why don't you come, since you have a background in camera, come work on and help us prep the cameras. And then I got experience, and she kept me on another movie, and it just kind of went from there. And then I met a director on this following movie named Michael Schultz, who directed classics like Coolie High, Car Wash, Bustin' Loose, and he took me under his wing and let me shadow him. And from there, just kind of.
So now, as we talk tonight, I want to, if we can, draw lessons. We have a number of students in the audience. I want to draw lessons for everybody from the way you worked. The way you work doesn't sound very typical. I mean,
no. One thing I learned about moving from Atlanta to L.A. Well, Detroit, Atlanta to L.A. Detroit was a fast-paced city. It's you got to move it or lose it. Atlanta a little bit slower. People are more hospitable, nicer, friendly. And then L.A. they just bite your head off. It's just, what do you want from me? No, I can't help you. So I said, okay, well, how do I, assimilate, and how do I get in the mix here when nobody really cares about me or what my dreams are, what I want to do? So I said, okay, well, first of all, the rent is high in LA, so I had to figure out how to make sure I could survive. So I started a business, a janitorial business, and I was able to moonlight and do favors for people on film sets. I said, okay, nobody's going to really allow me to work with them unless I'm working for free. So I had to do a lot of free jobs, and that's how I made a lot of relationships. I would go on sets and work with people, and then I would go work at night and clean my building. And then I made a lot of relationships like that, and eventually transitioned into film full time.
So you made friends. Whatever, sounds like whatever it took.
I had to do what I had to do, yeah, to just network and help other people. Because what you find is that a lot of people are here with the common goal, common dream. So you all have to just sort of find the right people to help each other out and make your product, make your film.
Now, along the way, besides meeting people who took you under their wing and gave you opportunities, did you also meet people like yourself who were coming up and wanted to be something and were training and learning just as you were? And are you working with them today? Do you have your own crew?
Yeah, I do, actually. A lot of my peers, we kind of came up together. We were going to some of the same schools, and they're doing, some big jobs as well. They're doing a lot of cool things. And then I still work with a lot of guys, who they ended up switching to different departments, but we still work together, whether it's costume or hair and makeup, every aspect. We're still collaborating.
And how'd you meet those guys? Those are all newfound friends in L.A. They're not from Atlanta or Detroit.
Surprisingly, several were from different states. I met a lot of people that did migrate from Atlanta or different cities.
But you met them here.
But I met them here, yeah. And we just kind of hooked back up, and you'll find out that it's a lot smaller than you think. It's small. It's not as big as you think it is. The industry itself, which is why your reputation and your word is everything. Because if you go on a set and I say I'm going to help you out and I don't show up, you say, oh yeah, I know that guy Alton. He's a no-show. Now I can't go do a job for somebody else. So that your name is pretty much everything.
But my instinct tells me you knew that before you came to L.A.
I knew that the hard way because I got fired when I was in Atlanta for not picking up the director on a big music video set. I overslept, and it was the rest was history. They fired me, and I said I had to learn the hard way. And today, me and the director are actually still friends, and we actually we work together still, so which is funny. We both
great.
direct. We're both in the union. He actually recently welcomed me into the Directors Guild recently, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he actually tells everybody, I fired that guy right there.
So you're a member of the DGA now?
Member of the DGA.
You're an official, are you a member of the 600?
I'm a member of Local 600 as well, yeah.
So you're a cameraman union member, DGA, Directors Guild member?
Correct, yes.
Any other unions?
Not at the moment. Maybe
you have
Producers
arrived.
Guild down the road, maybe Producers Guild down the road.
You have arrived. You're there. That's it.
It's been a journey.
Yeah. Now the problem with that is, of course, you're only as good as your last film.
That's true. That is very true, which is why every film I work hard to just sit back and evaluate it and just try to make it better, better, and better. And I think the most important thing is to not get comfortable. I think early on in my career, maybe 3 years ago, I had a lot of things coming to me, and I didn't have to go to them, and I kind of took it for granted. And I had a lot of opportunity, and then I had to sort of take a step back and just reevaluate and come back with that same hunger and that same thirst and that same drive, and that's where I am now again.
So you've had your ups and downs,
oh, yeah, my
psychologically, if not in terms of career. Has your career since you came to L.A. taken any dips?
I've had mental highs and lows, spiritual highs and lows, financial highs and lows, and it's kind of like the number 8. You know, it's when you're going up, and all of a sudden, whoop, come back down. You know, that's kind of like the story of my life. But understanding that, you know, it's an infinity. It just keeps going. But you have to be prepared for both. You know, you're going to have, and you have to, I think most importantly, as a filmmaker, you have to be open to putting yourself out there like an actor does. You got lights, cameras, 50 people behind the camera looking at you. That's how you are as a director. Once you finish your work and put it in the can and give it to the people. So you have to be prepared, people to chop it up, spit it out, and say, oh, it's horrible, and still keep going.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to ride that journey, that up and down. It's going to be like that no matter what you do.
And it'll be like that forever.
Forever, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, your movie may come out and make 100,000, or may come out and make 100 million. But are you going to let the people dictate whether you're good or bad or should keep making movies? No, you just keep on making it what you're passionate about.
What was after you got out of the training program or whatever it was for Local 600, which, by the way, was a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, it was good.
And if I'm not mistaken, all the unions have associate training kind of programs for people. I know the DGA does, for instance.
They do, actually. The DGA has a program. All the unions have some sort of avenue, if you seek it out, to be able to get insight into how to join. That is true.
Going back to that, was there something that you found in retrospect that you did right to get into that program? Because they're not easy to get into.
They're not easy to get into. I think keeping track of every job you do is very important. Being very meticulous, and just because you may go out and do a job and may only get $50, but that doesn't matter. You say, hey, you know, can you give me some sort of paperwork so that I can keep track of these days that I worked in all these shoots, this production company, so that at some point when you want to join these unions, you can say, here's my pile of projects, here are my days, and I like to submit to get in this union.
And you got to have the name, and you always want to make friends too, because you might have to call that producer back and say, by the way, can I get a letter of reference?
Yep, references.
I mean, 2 years later.
Yep, that's true. I had to get references to get in the Directors Guild from 3 directors, and they all helped me out, but I had to keep great relationships with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's important because you never know where your next job is coming from, do you?
Relationships are, I mean, because in this business it's word of mouth. So you're only as good as the people that say you're good. They'll say, oh, you know, he has a great attitude, you know, and you have to make sure that you're a team player. So
we billed tonight as a conversation with the filmmaker, but there was another title, and it was tips how to operate in Hollywood today. And it sounds like your method of operating is making friends, doing good work, doing something, even if you're not getting a lot of money for it, and building on your experience to move up to the next thing.
Yeah, my whole take on it is you have to be working when you're not working, because you never know when the phone's going to ring, when opportunity is going to present itself. And then even in this business, it has a side of it that's smoke and mirrors as well. So when I say working when you're not working, people want to know you're doing something, even though you might be working on your friend's short film next door to you for, you know, $2 and a biscuit. You have to still say, hey, I'm working on this new film next week. And they was, oh, great. Okay, well, we need you next week for something else, too, when you get finished with that. That's just the way it is, you know. So you have to play the game as well and stay busy.
Did you know back in Atlanta that you wanted to be a screenwriter or a producer or a director? How did that all develop? How did you become a hyphenate?
Well, I wanted to be a director, but I didn't know any writers at the time. So I said, okay, well, let me take a stab at writing. And I started writing. And I think that unless you partner with somebody immediately who's a writer and you both have equal passion to make each other's projects happen, you want to write. And even if you don't direct all the stuff you write, I think it's still good to sharpen your skills and your eye and to be able to interpret the material and help aid somebody else's material and to be able to put your director's vision on it. So I felt like I couldn't direct just the air, so I had to write something that say, here, I can direct, so here's a representation of what I can do as a filmmaker. And I just became sort of a hybrid and just kept working in that aspect. And then people would hire me to direct something or just write something. So it became, you know, another tool of staying busy and being able to sharpen both aspects of my career.
So writing was a stepping stone to directing.
Yeah, it was my stepping stone. Yeah.
But you must have been pretty good at it. You've sold scripts, you've sold pilots, you've sold concepts. And what do you think the most important things are for the budding writers in the audience?
Most important thing
as a writer?
As a writer, I would say being open and to being diverse, one, you know, reading different types of material, studying different types of film, different types of experiences, because what you may write may not translate the same to everybody. So I think you have to try to find that common denominator so that, you know, you may write a film that may have Hispanic actors, Asian or black actors, but try to find a way to make that film interesting to everybody and get that experience across so that anybody can watch your work and say, okay, he's diverse. He can write just about anything.
As a writer, do you gravitate towards a certain kind of story or a certain genre?
Early on, I didn't gravitate to a certain type of genre. I just sort of took a stab at pretty much everything from comedy, which was my first film. My second film was drama. My third film was a horror film. And I was just sort of finding my way around what I really liked. My last one was a thriller, and then my most recent was I came back to drama. And I'm sort of starting to find what I really like most and what gravitates to me the most.
And do you find yourself repeating anything as a writer? Are you repeating characters or situations or anything like that? Or are you deliberately trying to avoid doing the same thing?
I think that there's a certain amount of you can avoid when you write a film, even though you may not be conscious of certain things. Certain aspects of all my films have had a certain piece of me. Now that I'm old enough to look back and say, wow, that was an aspect of my personality or my experience that I had, and they have a certain common denominator, which is still fine, because then you start to carve out your voice as a filmmaker. And then once you can sort of channel that in, then your voice is pretty loud and clear moving forward.
Has your writing affected your directing? Has it made you a better director, or is it just that stepping stone? Because you've done scripts that you haven't produced or written. Mm-hmm. I mean, produced or directed.
Mm-hmm. So you run that one back for me again.
Does the writing affect your directing? Your skill as a writer that you picked up, does it make you a better director?
Does it make me a better director? I try to approach them as two different people. When I'm Alton the writer, I'm one person. When I'm Alton the director, I'm a totally different person. You know, and I also allow other people to critique my work as a writer, and I allow other people to critique my work as a director. And I have a total different circle for each aspect of those careers. So I think that it's tough when you write and direct your own material, because you get sort of married to certain things, or sometimes you can't see certain things, so you have to kind of get fresh eyes. I think the people around me make me better in both areas as a writer-director. You know, I think sometimes I can limit myself a little bit, which is why I have to open it up.
Now, I'm assuming that as you're producing the part of your triple hyphen at there, the producing aspect of your career, that too is really a way of getting yourself to direct. I mean, you've got a script, but you need somebody to make it happen, and you've ended up to be you. Is that correct, or did you?
Well, my first film, I raised the money for it. It was called The Candy Shop. It was a small little movie, like $100,000 movie. and I raised like about 25,000 me and a few of my buddies. And I met an investor guy I still work with named Courtney Triggs, and we're still business partners to this day on films. And he gave me the rest of the money. And that was my first film that I did everything, wrote, directed, produced. I was even actually the editor, craft service every now and then, getting turkey bacon and eggs. You know, it was one of those movies. It was a labor of love, but it was what made me who I am, and I'll never forget that film. So, and then my second film, one of my mentors who directs television, he hired me to write a film. Had been working doing television. He said, hey man, I can do this movie, but I don't have time. Here's this idea. I need you to write it. So I showed him my film, my first film. He says, it's, you know, he said, I liked that you were able to get your movie made. You know, and that showed me that it didn't really matter how great my film was. Some people never make a movie in their lifetime. So he commended me for that, and he said, hey, I'm going to hire you, paid me to do this movie. And it was funny, after writing the movie, I got paid more for an award at the film festival than I did for the script. I won like $20,000 for a screenplay award when we screened the movie. So that was, you just never know where your fruit is going to come from. So then the investor from that movie, he liked it. He hired me to actually write and direct another film, which was a horror film. And then that film screened at a film festival, did really well, got nominated for some awards. And then a producer saw it, and then she hired me to write and direct The Confidant, or Billy Zane and Richard Roundtree. And initially she just wanted me to direct the movie. But a script fell out. So she was like, hey, I know you're a writer too. Do you have any ideas? So I said, here's this treatment. What do you think? I said, I love it. I'm going to pay you to write it. I wrote it, directed it, she produced it. And then I had a lot of opportunity coming. I got hired to do another one for Tyler Perry's company in Atlanta, Georgia. It was a miniseries, teen miniseries. And things were great, and just getting hired. And then I started to sort of feel like my work as a writer-director was being shaped totally different from what I thought it was going to be by producers. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take a step back. And I stopped doing films for about 2.5, 3 years. And I started doing corporate content, reality television. And I said, you know, I'm going to take a step back. And when I come back into the film narrative space, I want to produce my movies. And that's where I am now. Now I'm raising all the money, writing them, producing them, directing them. And I don't write them by myself. I actually have a collaborator, a guy named Oliver Ali. He's a great writer. And we wrote my last film together. And I have other producers. I'm not the only one. And it's a family now. So that's the space I want to be in moving forward. You know.
Maybe it's time to let's take a look at some of your films. Do you have any, maybe 2 or 3 you want to show us in specifically?
So this film right here, this is my most recent film. Okay, so I'll take you through a progression. I'll show you the trailer to my very first film, and then you'll sort of see how I navigated my way.
Let me tell you what happens when you open the first body paint boutique in the hood. First of all, you always gonna have your hustle.
Oh, that's Kevin Hart.
Let's talk about it afterwards. So we
don't
have to talk about
it. I'm extending my business venture across the street. And you know what hustle the haters bring? Some of you can listen to acting. But don't talk too much hair to be bad for your health.
I told you not to put witch illustration on me. What's wrong with this shop?
Starring Omar Good,
$100.
Jeremy Diaz, and Ray Stoney and Smith.
Come on, man.
Welcome to the candy shop, people. Where their goal is to make you look good, feel good, and taste good.
Candy shop for life.
So that was like a parody of like a number of films like Barbershop, Hustle and Flow, and just gotta get back here, man. It's just, how do I go back? All right, and then I'll show you my second film. Here. That's actually a scene. This is like I don't have a trailer for the horror film, but this is like I'll show you maybe a minute from the film. This is a horror film we did.
Oh, yeah.
Been out here for hours. We haven't seen anything.
It's about patience, boy.
Did you hear that? I think we're close.
Yep.
What are you doing, Dad?
So that was actually a take on Marco Polo on land, the kids' children's swimming pool game.
Those guys going to be available for sequel?
No. And then I'll show you a clip from show you a trailer.
Show the one you showed me at your studio.
Let me see which one. This is The Confidant.
Yes.
Nigel, you know your gambling is what got me locked up. 11 long years. Now, you really want to leave with all that money. Nobody can know I was here. You know what you asking me to do? This is my life. Tell me how I feel to give your future away to your best friend. You promised you everything. And he can't even come and see you one time while you locked up. We can bicker and fight. You can present me all you want. It's not going to fix anything. He comes up in here occasionally, wins a few dollars. You know, the sad thing about it, he's probably worth more dead than he is alive. Really? How did you get this stuff? Let me say you owe me a life. You remember Eden? Forget the most beautiful girl in the school. Do you mean it?
How long is Jackson gonna be staying with us again?
Why are you asking so many questions?
I could have sworn somebody was looking at me today while I was in the bathtub.
A woman like you should always be made to feel desirable.
Is there anything we need done around this house? I'm a man to do it. Well, there's no secret that Nigel was a young hothead, always living above his needs. So that's where all the gambling money went to. That is like my rush. It's like being on a football team.
What's up with this? We play until there's no money left on the table. I need my money in 48 hours. You know I'm not joking. You can bet your life on it.
I lost a lot of money we don't have.
You promised me you would stop.
We are supposed to be one flash, one unit. How could you go out my back like that?
He became more than just a friend. He became our confidant.
And I'll show you my latest film trailer, the one I just finished. This is the film I just actually wrote, produced, directed, and it's like my first in-house film. And we also funded the film in-house as well. Let's see here. Let me go back. This is a rough cut trailer, so you're getting a chance to see it as we're actually cutting the trailer. It's a work in progress trailer. So it's like the first rough cut.
That night changed everybody's life.
I'm just trying to give you an opportunity to make bad situation good. That's it. How about paying no child support?
Ever since the accident, every day I do just as a cop. Some point you gotta realize when it's time to slow down. You have to come to terms with the fact that my family's a family.
And outside of me, they're the only people in the world who truly care about you. I can call them, I can say,
And so what? I'm rich. I got everything, but I don't have shit.
You're looking into an adoption agency without telling me. What about us looking more into it, bitch?
It's expensive.
So what? I can't pay for it? This is not an option.
I think it was time to reconnect. Move past it, move forward.
I'm not gonna let you come back here and wreck my marriage just so you can clear your conscience.
Just hear me out first, bitch.
Hear what? Hear what, dear mama?
One thing I have learned, man, is good friends are hard to find. Difficult to stay away from, and they're impossible to forget.
Love.
I guess that's the film portion now.
Good. Have a So, three very different kinds of projects.
They're all different. Yeah.
Hold your mic up.
All the projects have different genres. Yes.
And all very well done.
Appreciate it.
First thing I got to ask you is the promotion. You looked like you write this. Even if you haven't written the script, you design the promotion. You know what this film is about. You know the best way to sell it, and you build a trailer for it.
Well, all the films that I showed you, I wrote all of those films. Yes. So we going into it. I think now that I look at it as a business, and I understand it's a business first, I have to do a little bit more legwork on the backside, knowing what my message is, who my audience is, and what I'm trying to achieve with this film. So yes, I approach it a little bit differently now.
Let's talk about the three films in the order you showed them. The first one was Candy Shop.
That was my very, very first movie. Yes.
Tell me about it.
It was, like I said, labor of love. I was pulling money from everybody. I was hiring people from Craigslist, and it was probably the worst and best experience of my film career.
What was worst about it? What was wrong? What did you learn from it?
Oh man, what I learned from it is that, Craigslist, you can't get everybody off Craigslist, first of all. But that was a new thing when I moved to LA, Craigslist. It was like, oh man, you got everybody on Craigslist. I put an ad out on Craigslist and I had a whole crew. But I didn't realize this crew was going to cost me more than I thought it was going to cost me. I had one guy, he was on cocaine, he dropped a $20,000 monitor, and I was like, man, where did this guy come from, right? And then I had another lady I met. She was, I found out, she told me she was bipolar. I didn't really understand what her problem was. I was like, why is she always having mood swings? One minute she's nice, next minute she's mad. I'm tearing the whole setup. She was, and can't say it, well, she was different, met her on Craigslist. And she actually gave me money for the film. She said, I want to give money for the film because I want to upgrade my position and my role.
She wanted to buy her way up.
And as a filmmaker, I'm like, well, I guess, sure, okay. She gave me some thousands of dollars to help me produce the movie. And at the time, I thought it was a great idea, but it turned out to be a disaster, but a big learning experience. Two, I remember the very end of the movie, we wrapped out, like 5 actors. You know, you clap. Oh, it's a picture wrap on, you know, Sandy and Edward, and everybody left. And then one of the actors comes up. She says, "Hey, there's a scene that's missing that I haven't shot yet." I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "Scene 53B." I look at it. It's the end of the movie. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I said, "That's the last scene of the movie," and you picture wrapped all the actors, the AD, man. And I had my investor there because that was the last day on the location. So if I wasn't able to get that scene shot, it would cost me another $15,000, which we did not have nowhere near that money. So I went to the bathroom. I didn't tell anybody what was going on, and I just said, "Give me a break for a second." And I sat on the toilet, and I said, "Lord, I know you didn't bring me here to drop me off. Please, please." And I just prayed about it, and I said, "Man, I can't believe this. My movie is getting ready to be shot." So I prayed about it. I went back, and I said, and I told everybody, and everybody, since I didn't panic, everybody was like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess it's not that bad. You're not worried about it." So, and I couldn't show them I was worried about it. And I'll tell you what I learned about that. So then they started to call everybody, and luckily everybody was still available. Certain people hadn't got all the way home or started their second job or whatever. So they all came back. We shot the scene. And then I finally told the investor, and he was like, he was pissed, but he was happy that we got it done. But what I learned about that was, as a director or as the captain of the ship, the producer, whatever, if I would have panicked like the actor panicked, instead I pulled it to the side and said, "Tell me what happened," you know. And if I would have panicked, everybody would have freaked out. Say, "Oh, we're not going to finish the movie. We don't know what to do." And everybody's energy would have went in a totally different direction. And I wouldn't have been able to finish the movie. So I learned that you have to lead appropriately, you know, and if you don't worry and you don't trip out or freak out, then you can keep the chaos down and figure out a solution to get what you need to get done. Because when you're making a film, independent film, your worst enemy is time. It's always clicking on you, and money. So the only thing you have is your composure. So you have to maintain your composure to get through those complicated moments, to maintain a clear head. And if you maintain a clear head, everybody else will follow suit. So that was a big learning lesson, and it helped my film. And that's how I work now as a filmmaker. People say, "Why are you so calm?" You may not know I'm not calm, but I'll never let you know I'm not calm. You know, I worry like everybody else, but I'll sit back and I say, "Okay, we'll get it next," you know, and it works.
Well, the director has to be not just a coach and not just a leader, but he has to inspire people.
Has to, yeah.
And whatever you do, they're going to react to it, aren't they?
Yeah, if I'm the captain of the ship, and I can't tell you we're getting ready to hit an iceberg. Everybody's panicking. I got to turn the ship, and I got to figure out how to sail and keep everybody's spirits up and figure out a solution. You know, that's the only way you can approach it.
What happened to the film?
I made the film, finished the film. We distributed it, and we got into Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, and it did well. Target, and I was very happy to, you know, actually go out for the first time. I remember I was driving around all different cities, taking pictures of Blockbuster, my movie on the shelf, and posting them on Facebook. It was a great, exciting, and, you know, very fulfilling moment to see that, you know, I've been watching movies all my life and going to rent these movies from these places, and now I had a whole row of my film, you know, next to big movies. You know, first release week that came out, I had a whole row of like 6 rows across. I had facings. It was like, man, I felt like I finally arrived. Like, this is a great feeling, yeah.
Can I ask you if you made money on it?
I didn't make money on it. Actually, I'm not going to say that. We made money on it, but I didn't get out of the red, put it that way. And that was only because we decided to not sell the film off completely. Most of the distributors wanted to own the movie for 25 years. And one thing that I learned about distribution is that your power is in your catalog. So I said, you know what?
Tell that to Michael Jackson, by the way.
Well, yeah. Power is, well, he told that to Paul McCartney.
That's right.
When Paul McCartney wanted his rights back. So that just shows you your powers in your rights and your intellectual property. So we decided, you know what, we could go sell this movie and make our money back, just enough to make our money back. But we say, you know what, we're not going to stop making films, so let's let this be our first, that everybody will go back and buy and watch later to see where we came from. Because I always go back when I see filmmakers I like, I always go back and I buy their first movie, their second movie, their early work before they start doing big movies. Because to me, they're not the $100 million movie person. They're where they came from. And they'll tell you, you know, my problems are different from yours. I can fix my problems with money now, you know. My first movie, I still own it, and that's going to always be like my prized possession because that's where I started. So have I made money back directly from the film? The answer is yes, because it's allowed me to get other movies made, and it's catapulted my career, and I've made 10 times and what that project cost as a direct result of that seed being planted.
Where did you said now that you look at it as a business, where did you change? When did you stop looking at it as not a business, and when did you start looking at what you do as a business?
Well, my very first film was, you know, you just really fueled by passion. You just want to make movies by any means necessary. I want to make a movie. So you don't really see the business side. You don't really see, okay, after you finish this movie, you got to go back to your 9 to 5, or you got to go do your job, and at some point, where are you going to be able to make a living making movies? So I didn't see that on my first film. I didn't really start to see that until I started actually getting paid to write and direct, and I said, okay, they're making money off these movies. And then when they started to come out, I was like, okay, well, man, where are the residual checks? I need some mailbox money, you know. Where is that money at, you know? Actors get it. They're in the SAG, Actors Union, and directors have unions, writers have unions. I said, okay, let me sort of approach this a little differently now, because I see my movies that these hot producers are hiring me to make all over the place, and I know those are making money hand over fist. I see them off the shelf, they're sold out. So now I said, how can I make that money? And then I had to approach it differently. I said, okay, now as a producer, I need to produce these films. I need to do my deals, and I need to make sure not only do I make money, but the people around me make money. So that, because if you're happy, I'm going to continue to make great movies.
Does that change the way you work? I mean, does it change the way you direct, the way you write, the way you produce? The idea that you know it's a business, you have to make money or you can't continue.
Oh, 100%, because you have producers that just want to make quantity over quality, and then you have producers that want to make quality over quantity. Me, I want to make quality over quantity, so I would prefer to make 2 films a year than to make 10, you know, and because they have the triangle. One thing you'll learn, the triangle in this business is you have good, fast, or cheap. You can only pick 2. You can never have all 3. You know, occasionally, you know, once you get it down, I think you can have all 3. But traditionally, rule of thumb is good, fast, or cheap. If you want it good and, you know, fast, it won't be cheap. It's going to cost you some money. You know, so you just have to learn that business model and apply that to your work ethic. And for me, I want longevity, and I want to make a catalog that means something. So could I be worth $100 million, or could I be worth $10 million with a great body of work? I prefer to be worth $10 million with a great body of work than $100 million with 100 movies, you know, that nobody cares about.
Tell us about the second clip you showed us.
Second clip, that was Marco Polo. That film actually was a great project. I really enjoyed it. It was my first entry into horror, and that film I was hired to do based on another film that I wrote for somebody else, but that film never came out. It was because the producer, you know, I don't know what happened to the film. We had offers on the film, but I think it was more his first time on the business side, and he learned some things, and he decided to do some different things with his business model, and as a result, he decided to hold on to the film himself. So
it's still sitting on the shelf somewhere.
So it's still sitting on the shelf somewhere.
You may see it yet.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll put it out at some point. Yeah.
And then the third one, Confidant.
Confidant, that was another work for hire. I was awarded that film based on the horror film that the producer saw at the film festival. And that film did exceptionally well. I mean, Showtime bought it. Several networks bought it. We put it out in theaters in theatrical engagement in like 10 cities nationwide, and still runs on television to this day. It's in Walmart, Netflix, pretty much anywhere just about. You can order it, buy it. And after that film, I took a break.
Tell me about working with, were those the first name actors, Richard Roundtree, Billy Zane, and a couple of those, were those maybe the biggest names you
Those were the biggest today, yeah, at the time, yeah, those were the biggest actors I worked with at the time, yes.
And what did you find working with that level of actor?
I actually came in pretty well equipped. I studied with this this lady, I don't know if you all, there's these books called Directing Actors by Judith Weston.
Sure.
She's located here, and she actually has workshops and courses. And when I actually took her courses, it just equipped me with so many bags of tricks and just tools that my confidence level just went way up dealing with actors. You know, Billy Zane and these guys who work with, you know, when you're talking Billy Zane worked with James Cameron. So, you know, for me to work with an actor like that, you know, and him be able to work with me and not be condescending, I mean, it was a great experience that we actually had a great collaboration on set. But her classes and her books really helped me with that, you know, to really sharpen my skills from my communication standpoint as a director.
So it sounds like you're a big proponent of learn as much as you can whenever you need it.
Yeah, don't stop. Iron sharpens iron. That's the one thing I always live by. It's like directing doesn't stop with just framing the camera up and composing the shot, blocking. I think the first key is communication with actors. And it's not always about telling them, hey, you know, be happy, be sad, be this, be that. It's really basic. It's from a basic standpoint of just communication, just like this. A lot of times people think, you know, you have to meet an actor and talk all about movies. Sometimes it's just about getting to know each other, finding out what they like, what they don't like. You know, it's like a date, you know, and then once you navigate your way through that, then it's time to get into the material, and then you know how to work with each other. And I think getting comfortable with each other is what makes the process much easier on set as a director and actor relationship.
Did your background as a writer, script writer, your creative background in that field help you as a director? You look at you can analyze a script better or see where the weak points are and maybe direct the actors better?
No, all that came from studying with Judith, actually. She was a lifesaver. I mean, I have to give it to her. I read all her books, and I studied with her, and what was great about that, there were other directors in my class that were major directors. I mean, they have done, you know, big movies, but they still needed that same tool to go in and work with these actors, because at the end of the day, even though you might have thrills and explosions, even those directors have to still have some sort of communication with the actor, or it's not going to be authentic. So we need those tools.
How do you? You had some great characters in that film. Bai Ling, is that her name?
Yeah, Bai Ling. Yes, she's amazing.
She's terrific. How do you particularly on your method of working with actors to develop their characters? So that was a character-ridden film, I think.
Actually, Bai Ling, and this is just about taking risks. Bai Ling's character was she actually came to audition for another role, and the character that she's playing was written for a man. And after meeting her, I just liked her energy so much. I said, you know what? I told the producer, I said, you know what? I want to rewrite this character and give her the role and make her, you know, Asian mob boss. She's like, wow, I haven't really seen that. You know, let's try it. And then me and Bai talked about it, and she loved it, and she came up with some ideas. And there's this money belt that she's wearing. You know, we just came up with really cool, unique ideas, her colors, different textures, and we took a risk on it, and it worked.
Yeah, great character.
Yeah, it worked.
She does a great job with it.
She did an amazing job with that character. Yeah.
So you're happy with that film, I take it?
I was happy with that film to a certain degree. Certain things I can't disclose, but
because you want to work in Hollywood again.
Yeah, that film taught me a lot about things that I don't want to do, and the control that I like to have over my films, and you know, in terms of casting, let's put it that way. You know,
casting is about you.
There were some casting options that were forced on me that I would have definitely liked to have changed out.
Are you one of those people who believe that if you get the right casting, the rest will take care of itself?
Oh, 100%. Like my new movie with Crew, I mean, those actors, I mean, one in particular, especially the lead, I mean, the freedom that I give the actors opens the collaboration because I trust them, and then in turn they trust me, and then it just sort of it becomes something bigger and far better than you've ever seen before. It just comes to life off the page. So yeah, actors are 100% key component.
Doesn't work that way when you hire your actors from Craigslist, does it?
No, it doesn't. Doesn't. No. Well, you never know who you might find on Craigslist. Craigslist is like playing a lottery sometimes. You may hit, a Powerball every now and then, and get some great. I have actually one of the guys that I met on Craigslist. He had an interesting story. He was one of the co-creators. He drew the original short film to Family Guy. He was the artist for it. I met him on Craigslist, and we're still friends to this day. He's a great artist, comic book writer, the whole nine. We met on Craigslist. I mean, this was, 13 years ago, something like that? 2005, 9 years ago? Yep. So you never know who you might meet. Out of all the people, he was great. The best one I met.
So you took a little break after Confidant, am I correct?
I took about 2.5 years.
You kind of backed off, and you were making money other ways. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was actually I was doing corporate work in terms of corporate video. I had a contract doing acupuncture videos and chiropractic videos, and it was a great opportunity to learn something new. And then I was doing a lot of promotional content, and like for Universal Records, working with artists like Nelly and Enrique Iglesias and Kelly Rowland, Jay Sean, a lot of different artists. And then I ended up getting off into reality TV, and did a show with Warner Brothers, a live music show with a company called Make It Happen Productions. And then did another one called The Crew LA, which we sold to Viacom, which was Logo. It was Alternative Lifestyle Network. It was, and it was great. And then people started hiring me to do sizzle reels, which was shoot pilots and reality shows for other people. So, and since I had a documentary sort of background, that really worked out for me because I was able to still shoot and still incorporate my narrative spirit, into my work.
So you were flashing back to your roots, which was
camera operating
on what, music videos, behind the scenes
kind
of
behind
stuff?
the scenes, all that type of stuff. Yeah.
And it sounds like you were putting those two genres together into promotional videos for musicians.
Yep.
And is there a lot of that out there?
Tons of it. I mean, and you make great money doing it. I mean, it's a great opportunity. And it kind of, and to say it was a great opportunity, but that also can make you a little lazy because you're making great money. You're just kind of sitting back and the phone's ringing and you're like, okay, I gained 10 pounds of eating good. And I said, okay, I'm a little bit, complacent.
And you're also doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah, doing the same thing all the time, and I love it. It was a blessing. It was great. But I had to put my cap back on and say, let's get back into making some films and some.
How'd you put that cap back on? What made you change your lifestyle, change your goals, and get back into feature films?
Well, I had kids, first of all, and they made me just realize, one, how time flies. First of all, I'm like, man, I'm not getting any younger. They're growing up, and if I want to make some more films, then I'm probably going to have to spend my own money. I need to do it now while I can take some more risks before they start going to real school and private schools and all this type of stuff. My wife said, no, you're not spending that money on this movie. So I said, okay, how do I got to get back in the film business. So I bought some cameras, invested in a Red camera, and I started working that technology, learning that technology. And I said, okay, that pushed me because I said, okay, if I buy this camera, I'm going to have to pay it off. I need to do something to force myself back.
By now, of course, you are an entrepreneur in your mind. You're not doing anything for just the love of it.
Yeah, so I bought the camera, renting it out, making money on it, and learning it at the same time. And it's okay, now I'm going to make movies. So I convinced my cinematographer buddy of mine. I said, hey, man, I just bought this camera, man. Why don't you go ahead and buy one, too? Let's start making movies again. He's like, man, you convinced me to buy this damn camera. So he bought one. I bought one. And I wrote a script and raised some capital, and then we shot the movie. And that was the last one you saw, Crew.
Crew, yeah. Now,
So,
is that out?
It's I'll be finished with it middle of October, post-production.
Do you have distribution lined up yet?
I have offers right now, but again, I'm sort of sitting back and with an independent mind of how do I continue to build my catalog, and which means I probably would approach more of independent releasing route where I'll take some independent capital, we'll put it in theaters, and then I'll just license the film. I don't want to sell it. So I'll license it to networks, and then I'll do a DVD distribution deal with somebody and let them take those rights. And then I'll get it back in 5 years and put out a director's cut another 5 years later and package it up different and keep building my catalog.
Keep churning that catalog.
Yeah, and then, one day, who knows what type of, offer they may come with. 20, 30 films deep. Who knows?
Well, this is a good point to talk about finance. Let's talk about what you learned over the years about financing a film. You said did you completely self-finance the crew, this last one?
This last one, we put up half of the money, and I was able to get half the money from other people. Yeah.
Can I ask what the budget was?
$500,000. Yeah.
That's a good size.
Yeah.
For an independent film.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Most independent films that I've heard about are under $1 million?
Yeah, generally under. I mean, it really depends. Like, my film, people think my film costs more, but that's only because of the relationships that I have, the things that we own, the resources. So, I mean, that's hard dollar, but for somebody else, it may cost them $1 million, $1 million, $2 million, I don't know. So, most films, yeah, I mean, you're talking, it really depends, because Hollywood would consider a low-budget movie anything under $20 million.
Right, but that's another world, isn't it?
You know what I mean? So, but I just kind of like that Woody Allen space, where it's independent, he gets to make the movies he want to make, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Woody Allen has never lost money on a movie for his investors. Actually, they haven't always made a lot of money, but they've never lost money.
Woody Allen said he's made more money off real estate than he has making movies. And that's my approach now. My approach is now I'm investing in real estate so that I can continue to make more movies that I want to make. Because I after making films and being a part of certain aspects of the machine, what's more important to me is my quality of life. When somebody sits $100 million on your back and says, go make this movie, you've got, 50, 60 people over your shoulder, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this, and that's great for some people. But I just know what direction I want to go in now, and that's you have to pick your journey.
Well, let me take you back to the financing. Give me the flow, how things developed from financing your first film to today.
Financing my first film?
Where's the money come from? How do you dig it up?
Oh, man, my first film came from a combination of cash and credit cards. And it's still the same way now. I mean, this time you're just a little bit more savvy. You have homes and you refinance them and you hope you don't lose your pants. You know what I mean? It's a combination of faith and finance. So one key thing is that you'll be surprised that the people that you think will give you money first, the most, may not always be the people that will give you the money. Because what I found out on my most recent film was people that I didn't even know and the people that I did know had me on the hook for a certain amount of money. I was like, okay, they're going to give me the money. They're going to give me the money. And they promised me the money and they didn't deliver. People that I didn't know actually showed up and gave me the money. So I thought that was very interesting, that you just have to keep on putting it out there. Once you put it out there, hey, I'm raising money for this film, you have an instrument that can show you, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, this is how you're going to get your money back. You never know who you'll meet along the way as long as you open your mouth. Because I may be talking to you about a conversation, and you may not be an investor, but you may say, oh, I actually know somebody that's interested in something like that. And that's kind of how it happened. I just kept talking to people, hey, what are you doing? I'm raising money for this next film. Oh, you know what? What about this? I know somebody here. I know somebody here. So the money even came from third parties. Like I would know somebody who would say, hey, I know somebody who's interested in investing. He go 30, he go 50, and that's how it kind of came together. And most of the people that gave me money, I didn't even know. We just built a relationship. And the people that I knew who I thought were going to give me the money bailed. So you learn, but
Did you find that your budget got bigger and bigger, or are you very careful about your budgets to keep them to what the movie demands?
Well, yeah, for this movie, I had to approach it from a very sound business perspective. I said, okay, what's my market? Where is it going? What is my point with this movie? and what's my threshold. So I said I have to cap this movie at a certain budget so that I know what kind of money I can get back in what amount of time. And then I can predicate that on how much resources I put into the movie. So yeah, you definitely, I mean, you don't want to, you know, buy a house and put $200,000 into it and it's only worth, you know, you only came up $50,000. You know, that's not going to be worth the flip at all. Yeah.
The other thing we did when we promoted this evening was to say how you operate in Hollywood. Now you're in Hollywood, but you're certainly not the big studios. You're doing independent films, which is maybe could be looked at as another side of Hollywood. But you're in the business making feature films.
Yeah, I've worked with various aspects of Hollywood. I've done promos and I've done work with different areas of different studios. I worked with Sony and, you know, major studios before, but I just find that I'm more comfortable in an independent space. And I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable with making a Iron Man or those types of movies, you know, based on my personality and who I am. And, you know, and those are things that I learned to just accept that, you know, I don't want to do certain things.
You have any rules or any advice for people in the independent film area?
Yeah, I think most importantly is defining your own success. To me, is very important because when you're making films and you're letting people look at them and you have a life and you're looking at life, you're looking at age, you're looking at gender, you're looking at it's so many different things from a psychological level we look at, especially in this business. And I think that you want to define what your success is to you first. So that way, as you continue to climb your ladder, nobody can throw you off of that track or make you feel like you're not accomplishing anything or you're not getting there at a certain level. Just because you went out and made a $20 million movie and he made a $50,000 movie, I don't need to compare myself to neither one of you. You know, for me, it's I made my movie, I'm happy with it, and I'm going to keep making movies. And I have to set my own milestones and make them realistic. You know what I mean? I don't think anything is unrealistic, but you have to. A lot of times we look over there instead of just let me plant these seeds so I can see the growth. Because you say I want to get there, and 5 years will go by, and you haven't even took a step because you're still looking over there. And it's like you have to plant those seeds one at a time so you can track your progress. So, okay, I made this film. This film might only been $5,000. Me and my buddy did it together. But I made it. I learned from it. I got it out there. I went to some film festivals. I networked. I might have met another person, and now my next movie is $25,000. Who knows? Or you may meet an investor who just says, hey, I have $2 million, but I like you. And a lot of times people will just work with you because they like you too. So be yourself. That's another thing. Just be yourself. That's how I met my investor from the candy shop. That's a very interesting story. I was in Palm Springs at a networking conference and met this producer. He said, hey, man, I like your disposition. He said, why don't you come back to L.A. and let's talk about your movies. So I had my short film and my reels and stuff, and I popped it in, and he walked away. There was a guy sitting on the couch. He says, man, you make these movies? I said, yeah, man. You know, he said, what did you want to do? I said, I want to be a director. I want to make feature films. He said, I just sold my company, man. I sell motorcycle parts. I just sold my company, and I want to get in the movie business. I'm like, I've heard this a million times, you know, whatever. I was like, all right. He said, let's talk about it. So he said, send me some scripts. I said, all right. He gave me $100,000 like 2 months later. And the guy, I don't even talk to the other guy anymore. I mean, we're still cool, but I would have never guessed that day this guy, of all people, who I didn't even know, sitting in another guy's house and when they go meet, give me the money. So that just shows you got to be ready for opportunity. It's going to present itself and be prepared.
Well, one of the things I like about you is your entrepreneurial attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Not only approaching film as a business, but you're approaching the business as a business, and you're approaching almost everything as a business. You're looking to leverage your library when you get it built, and you're looking to, you built a studio. So now you're in the studio business. You're renting out a studio. Tell me about your studio.
Yeah, it's just funny. It's just an entrepreneur. I have a 3,000 square foot building in North Hollywood. I initially went into business with a guy.
Tell me where it is, first of all.
The Arts District on Lancashire Boulevard,
Right.
4870 Lancashire Boulevard.
What's it called?
Glassrock Studios.
So we can look it up online.
Glassrock Entertainment, Glassrock Studios, and we just opened up a few months ago, building it out now. It's for photography and music videos, stunt production. We build small sets. We have red cameras, lighting, sound, and office space. And it's just a creative hub, whether you want an office or you want a rehearsal space, castings, photography, videos, whatever. The business kind of came about on a fluke. I actually had another business. I owned a furniture store. I went in business with a guy. We owned a furniture store. We were leasing furniture and renting furniture to the studios, like Sons of Anarchy, the TV show. We were furnishing their sets, commercials with Toyota, and it was a great business in the beginning. And and it got to a point where I said, this isn't making as much money as I wanted to make. And my business partner was like, well, I actually want to just do it online. So I took the opportunity and said, okay, great. I took the building and converted it to a studio space, and now I'm renting it out, I'm leasing it, and we're doing all production in there now.
And you're keeping busy?
And I'm keeping busy.
You're renting your camera out?
Renting my cameras, renting my red cameras, and people come in and doing photo shoots. And I just like creative energy. So people come in, and what's cool about it is, even for people who don't have a lot of money, we have this thing for like family and friends or people that are really trying to build, where we allow them to come in and make donations to try to build and create certain projects. Because it's not always about pay me. One thing I learned, because I've had too many resources to not allow them to be utilized by people who are really hungry and want to, thirst for knowledge and to do product. So we're open to just about anybody, who wants to do projects.
Terrific story. Where's the future? What's next after Crew gets finished?
Right now, I'm working on Crew and developing a graphic novel with a writer and an investor, and that's my next venture, which will later be adapted to a screenplay and a movie, and that'll be a studio movie. So I mean, at some point, you have to sort of give into the big Hollywood, but from an entrepreneur perspective, we're doing it as a graphic novel first because I want to publish my intellectual property first, so that I always own it, no matter what happens. Which is kind of like George Lucas did when he came up with the toys. He said, "Here, you can own the movie, but I'm going to keep the rights to R2-D2 and all these characters." And he's made more money off the toys and merchandise than he has the movie. So you learn from people, filmmakers. It's more than one way to generate revenue. So that's my approach, and to get more and more business active. And have another film I'll start working on after we finish doing the theatrical release. We're going to release Crew in movie theaters, limited release around the nation, and I'm going to do a tour with that. So that'll keep me busy till the top of the year, and then I'll start writing a new film in a couple of months that I'll be taking in pre-production to be shot, hopefully by spring.
So it sounds like you're planning on just expanding what you're doing now, finding things that work together and will feed each other, like the red camera is going to help rent out the studio, and the studio is going to help develop graphic novel and things like that. Is that correct, or do you see stretching out into new areas?
New areas is I want to expand our studio into graphic novels and comic books. I don't want to just do them. I want to open it up to writers doing comic books, graphic novels. I want to have a studio side for that, and I want to have other directors. I want to have other producers, other writers. I just want to be a hub, a mini studio, and I'll be out of that building in a year and a half, and I'll be getting a bigger one. So we're just going to keep growing and keep growing and keep growing, and until we're next door to Paramount. That's the goal.
Well, I don't doubt that you'll get
keep
there.
growing.
Real quick, any questions from anybody? Because our time is almost up, and we have a question over there.
What's your address on Lancashire, your studio?
4870 Lancashire.
The address is 4870 Lancashire.
Yeah. And I'll say one other thing. With the advantage I think filmmakers have now is we have so much technology. You know, back then you didn't have internet. You couldn't just self-distribute your films, and then now you have social networking. So if you can, as a filmmaker, you have people going on Kickstarter and they're making movies. They're raising millions of dollars, and it's becoming so big. Obama just put out a new act where they're going to actually allow crowdfunding to not be illegal and be governed by SEC regulations.
Right.
So now people, there's companies popping up now where they're doing professional crowdfunding organizations where they help you raise money. I can actually advertise to an investor for a movie on
Sell
television,
shares in it, yeah.
and I can sell shares in it, and I can give them back-end profits. I mean, that's going to open up the floodgates to anybody. Me going to get $5 from you, $100 from you, and now you're making films on a personal level that you can get people to campaign and get behind you and get your films made, and that's big.
Well, the world has been moving towards independent film and video and television as well. Just read an article in the LA Times the other day about they interviewed somebody from NBC, and this is like the vice president of development or somebody, and they were, maybe whining isn't the right word, but they were complaining that all the best names in Hollywood who develop all these wonderful TV shows are not coming to NBC first. They're going to TNT, and they're going to Logo, and they're going to USA. There's like a dozen networks out there who have money, besides HBO and NBC and ABC, who have money to buy these series. So the world has changed considerably,
Netflix.
and independent film is been for a long time getting stronger and stronger.
Oh yeah, even look at Netflix. I mean, Netflix is independent. I mean, they're making their own television series now, and they're getting nominated for Emmys. I mean, that just shows you that just like these companies are independent and they're growing, I can do it, you can do it, you can build your catalog, and eventually they're going to have to come to you and say, how much money do you want for us to play? Say, I want $100 million. That's, you know, you when you go in a room, you either buying or selling. Which one do you want to do, you know? And the first person that lean in is the one that sold. So when you go in a room, you just sit back and you say, you know, what do you want to offer me? That's pretty much it. And you can't do that until you have some sort of collateral, some ancillary, you know, rights or media to show, hey, I'm worth something. And I have all these people here behind me. I have 100,000 followers. Every time I drop a movie, I sell 100,000 units. So I can do that on my own. What are you going to do for me? I need 100 million.
All that is dependent on having quality catalog.
Quality product.
And that's where you've learned the lesson and done a great job.
Quality product. That's it.
Good. And thank you for sharing all your background and information and lessons with us.
Oh,
Terrific.
man, anytime.
And with that, I guess we say adieu. Do we have any announcements or anything else to close out with?
Well, we're expecting to have either a television host that's going to be starting a new television show next month, or a radio producer, or a comedian. So we're working
So
right now.
next month's meeting,
Next month meeting,
third Wednesday of the month,
the 16th of October.
16th of October.
I'd vote to have Alton back.
Probably not in this location, because Randy actually has a class he has to teach every Wednesday. Thank you, Randy. But great evening. Thank you, Alton. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Questions?